I was watching YouTube when I came across a thumbnail from a Zoomer historian. The thumbnail asked, what books were burned during the Nazi book burnings? Initially, I thought it would cover the obvious targets like the Bible and any other books that challenged the state's absolute authority, the kind of works totalitarian regimes would want destroyed. However, as I watched the video, it reminded me of another YouTube historian known as LazerPig, who doesn't thoroughly research his topics or properly cite sources. I had been wanting to make a video critiquing LazerPig, but struggled to find an engaging angle. Then it hit me. I could discuss how both this Zoomer historian and LazerPig present inaccurate historical accounts, using the Nazi book burnings as a case study. This would allow me to analyze two British historians who failed to tell the truth about important events.
The book burnings in Germany in the 1930s are widely mentioned in the media, in school, and in books. Whenever National Socialism is brought up, the book burnings are named as one of the main evils that were committed during that period.
No one thinks one of the main evils committed by the Nazis was the Nazi book burning. Nobody thinks that.
Are book burnings inherently bad? Why is it put on such a pedestal? The official Holocaust Museum's own video on the topic starts off like this.
To burn books is simply a fundamental repression of ideas.
I mean, what can a book do, and why is it so dangerous that it needs to be physically annihilated?
If book burning or censorship is so unheard of and egregious, why did we ban 30,000 books in post-war Germany during denazification when the Nazis themselves only banned around 4,000? The event itself is constantly mentioned, but it's also always glossed over extremely quickly. Few stop to ask themselves, what books did the Nazis actually burn? This fairly simple question is rarely looked into. When asked, the answer is usually just Jewish books and they didn't like Jews, and then no further comment given. This is not good enough. It's time to actually look into what these books were and why they were burned and then banned. This is a very sensitive topic for reasons that I'm sure you can figure out, so I'll present the books and their contents without opinion. To discuss the book burnings, a brief summary of the cultural change during the Weimar Republic is needed, as a large part of the rise of the Nazis was a reaction, or you could even say revolution, against these cultural changes. Again, I will not comment if these changes are inherently good or bad. If you're Christian or vaguely conservative, this period is seen as disgusting. To gay people, it's seen as the biggest step forward in their struggle to be equal. After the collapse in World War I, Germany was in a terrible state. Communist revolutions rose and fell, nationalist militias rose to meet them. Stuck with heavy loan repayments to the Allies, the German currency was not in a good shape, and things would only get worse in that regard later on. A sad, depressed, and nihilistic world arose from the rubble. Berlin was the epicenter of this new world. There were as many as 100,000 prostitutes or sex clubs at any one time, just in that one city. It wasn't confined to a red light district like modern day Amsterdam, for example. This was the city. The most unusual culture arose in what some would call a modern day Babylon. There was a street in Berlin purely filled with pregnant prostitutes, another with disfigured ones, acid scars, hunchbacks, you name it. Another was purely mother-daughter teams who would dress exactly alike. A lot of what went on in the city, many in the modern world would agree with. This aspect, most would find abhorrent. On a more acceptable level to our modern society, homosexuality was rife.
I guess by more acceptable in society, he really means the UK, because, you know, in the US, it's really not like that. The LGB and quote-unquote sex workers pretty much walk hand in hand. If you're pro one, you're probably pro the other one.
Drugs were widely available, mainly morphine, opium, and cocaine. Transgenderism saw the light of day.
He's making out the Nazis to be this cultural revolution against the then German culture, when that just isn't the case. The Nazis were ultra-nationalistic. That means it was that German culture that they took to the extreme. And they were very much in support of all these things that he's talking about. And I do have evidence I'm going to put in a pinned comment. I'm going to have all my sources which are cited, which is a lot more than what he does. You know, there's no sources cited for him, but I'm going to cite my sources. I'm going to prove that this cultural revolution BS is just that. It's BS. They were ultra nationalistics. They were very much for the then German culture, not opposed to it.
As the ever-growing Nazi movement saw it, the years following the disaster of the World War had been a mistake. Germany had gone down the wrong path. They felt their culture had been hijacked by Jews, liberals, and defeatists. They felt family values had given way to rampant individualism, moral values given way to sexual deviancy, homosexuality, and worse. The comparisons to our current time are obvious and barely deserve mentioning. Then, as now, it was a battle between the sacred principles of our society in the past and the new, liberal, and unknown. Now I will simply, again, hello YouTube, without opinion, go over the genres and some specifics of the books they sent to the flames. Communism was the sworn enemy of National Socialism. They had fought and died against each other ever since the birth of the movement. There was never any doubt that communist works would be the first on the chopping block. To name some of the most obvious, Karl Marx's Das Kapital, the Holy Book of Communism, was sent to the flames, as was Lenin's and Trotsky's works. Communists closer to home, like Rosa Luxemburg's works, were banned also. Pacifism was seen as weakness. While National Socialism didn't see war as inherently good, the movement felt pacifism to be like a disease that weakens the wider whole. The book that spawned the recent Netflix hit remake, All Quiet on the Western Front, was sent to the flames and later banned. While this might seem extreme, consider that a few years later, Oswald Mosley, Great Britain's biggest peace advocate, would be thrown in a tiny cold cell without trial for opposing the Second World War and only released when he was seriously ill. Books on early transgender theory being sent to the flames should hardly be surprising given where the first burning began. Hirschfeld's library was gutted and sent straight into the flames outside. Transgenderism was viewed in all countries, not just in National Socialist Germany at the time, as something absurd and deranged. Hirschfeld was the perfect example for the Germans of what they didn't want in society. A Jewish homosexual scientist who turns men into women. He was on a speaking tour at the time of the burnings. He never returned. Some of his works include The Objective Diagnosis of Homosexuality, Transvestites, the erotic drive to cross-dress, and the sexual history of the World War. Equally alongside with transgenderism, the burning of homosexual works could be best summed up in the character of Hirschfeld and his works. Pornography or any kind of work seen as being degenerate in this regard was sent to the flames and banned. Much as today, there was a huge opposition to porn, and why the Nazis would oppose such a thing needs no explanation. I haven't left the Jewish books for last because I feel they're the least important. It's more because it's a culmination of the rest. The Jews, for many long and complex historical reasons, find themselves massively overrepresented in art, literature, politics, and liberal culture in general. They've been a major part of the history of liberalism, and at the spearhead of every movement that's challenged the European status quo. I say this without opinion. Maybe this is something to be proud of, maybe it isn't, but it is the case for whatever reason. Your interpretation of this phenomena depends on your worldview. All that is to say that at the highest levels of all the former categories, you find many Jewish authors, and mixed in with the other gripes the National Socialists had with Jewish practices, such as their banking, it's not hard to imagine why the Jewish books were an easy target for them. They felt the Jews had a hand in all their problems, be it cultural, political, or financial. Again, I state all of this without opinion of my own. This is but a short video detailing what types of books were actually banned. The event is widely mentioned but not discussed. I think it's important people know what books were actually banned before rushing to claim that it was some unspeakable evil, whatever side of the fence they may sit on politically. There has been very few censorship-free civilizations in history, and National Socialism was no different. Historical context is important. Who knows, if the internet and its censorship didn't exist now, would right-wing books not be getting burnt at this very moment?
He claims that the Nazi book burnings were good for Christianity. However, if you have any knowledge about the Nazis, you would know that they were an anti-religious organization that were essentially one and the same with militant atheism. In fact, many Christian books, including the Holy Bible, were among those destroyed during the Nazi book burnings and throughout the Nazi occupation of Germany. Instead of preserving Christianity, the Nazis released a heretical version of the Bible to placate those who identified as Christian but did not truly practice the faith. This Nazi-approved Bible was essentially a book of heresies that promoted Nazism rather than the true teachings of Christianity. Even then, this corrupted version was merely tolerated by the Nazis, who had disdain for any religion. This is analogous to how the atheistic Chinese government releases a state-sanctioned version of the Bible edited to align with the values of the Communist Party. But like the Nazis, the Chinese government is self-professedly atheist and opposed to authentic religious teachings. This is where LazerPig enters the picture. He falsely claimed that a Nazi-engineered engine used in Nazi war machines is the exact same one being utilized in Russia's next-generation T-14 Armata battle tank. He made this claim in a way that glorified Nazi technology while downplaying Russia's latest tank. However, one could critique the T-14 Armata without resorting to absurd notions about Nazi technology. The YouTuber Red Effect took it upon himself to correct LazerPig on this matter, disputing the rumors of a supposed Nazi-engineered power pack for the modern T-14. If I were to address this topic, I would essentially reiterate what Red Effect and other YouTubers have stated in their videos. There is absolutely no truth to this Nazi engine myth. I recommend watching Red Effect's video, as he is a trustworthy YouTuber whom I would believe over these self-proclaimed British historians.
people behind the T-14 Armata project, and in their brilliance that could only possibly come to a bunch of people high on mountain air and vodka, decided just to copy the German SLA-16. You know, the engine from the Second World War Nazi tank, the Porsche Tiger.
More concerning than LazerPig's factual inaccuracy is how he handled the situation. He called Red Effect a coward for criticizing his erroneous claims about the tank, and labeled another YouTuber, Cone of Arc, a clout chaser. These accusations are baseless. Ironically, while making such unfounded claims, LazerPig claimed he didn't want to cause drama. As if one wanted to deliberately stir up drama, his approach is precisely how to do it. So it is evident that stirring controversy was his intent.
This is a very poorly researched video that has been presented exceptionally dishonestly. And seriously, Red Effect strawmanning me for half an hour and countering any actual points I made with "nuh-uh." His rebuttal of me was one of his more successful videos. He got a lot of clicks, and some other YouTubers decided, hey, there's money to be made here. Oh boy, I wonder where I'm going with this. This is Cone of Arc, a YouTuber whose view numbers have been lacking lately. So I'm not going to list my sources because if they want to critique me on what I found, if you want to critique me on what I found, I want both you and them to go through the same level of research and the same level of pain that me and the two people who agreed to help me also went through. I'm not interested in a YouTuber clout war.
In conclusion, both the Zoomer historian and LazerPig exhibit a disturbing pattern of promoting inaccurate historical narratives and dubious claims without properly citing sources. The Zoomer historian's video on Nazi book burnings distorts the truth by falsely portraying the Nazis as protectors of Christianity and opponents of homosexuality, when in reality they brutally persecuted Christians and other religious groups while having no moral opposition to homosexuality within their own ranks. Meanwhile, LazerPig's claims about a supposed Nazi-designed engine powering Russians' modern tanks are utter fiction, likely stemming from a desire to sensationalize his content by drawing connections to Nazi technology, no matter how unfounded. When called out on such egregious factual errors by more reputable sources, LazerPig resorted to personal attack rather than being accountable for his actions, and hid behind the lie of not wanting any drama. As for if this video will harm the Zoomer historian or LazerPig, I don't think it will. I would not have made the video if I thought it would. LazerPig obviously wants this kind of attention despite his words, and much worse has been said about Zoomer historian in this other video. So, no one will be harmed by this video.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. And, yeah, so this wasn't really like the catalyst, or the thing that started my, I don't know, dislike for LazerPig. I think it goes all the way back till when he tried to debate this dude who was arguing that the Russians are super powerful, they're gonna curb stomp the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians are evil for fighting the Russians and whatnot. Anyways, that's what this guy was saying, and LazerPig was like, I know, I'm gonna freaking debate this guy. You know, big brain LazerPig, gonna debate this dude. Well, fucking got his ass handed to him. Made himself look like a freaking idiot. Like, so what? He lost a debate? Not a big deal. That's not why I freaking started to dislike LazerPig. Started to dislike LazerPig when he then made like a follow-up YouTube video being like all woe is meism and shit, and just being a wuss, and I did not like that at all. And you know, I know this is why I had to wait till I had some other angle to talk about this, right? Because if I say, you know, if I try to criticize LazerPig, then his fans are going to be like, well, you know, you only dislike LazerPig because you're pro-Russian, or you're pro-Nazi, or you're pro-New World Order, or you're pro some other bullshit that I don't fucking care about because I'm an American, and, you know, shit that I care about is fucking American interests, you know. Texan interests, if you want to get even further than that. You know, I care about what's good for Texas. And, you know, this whole calling Red Effect a coward, calling him a liar, calling Cone of Arc a clout chaser, just being rude to people, and claiming he doesn't want to start no drama and shit. That was sort of the the last straw, and I'm just not willing to watch any more of his videos at that point. And of course, I'm wanting to make these commentary videos on other YouTubers. I'm trying to figure out how to do that without being like super pedantic. And I don't know, maybe I came across this video that way. I have no idea. But if you like the video, be sure you're subscribed and leave a like and a comment.